sorry, that would be pound S4 dash main area, I believe it was, right? And you would put your properties within there. SharePoint Designer gives you some IntelliSense in terms of all the CSS that's available. You can make changes right there. So if I wanted to, let's say, change the margins, it'd tell you, okay, provide me the first property for margin top, the right, the bottom, or the left. So that's kind of CSS for you. If you wanted to do the div class here, then you would select one of these, and the way to denote in CSS a CSS class is period, and then the class name after that. So those are kind of the basics. It's always good to get the basics out so we're all on the same page. So as I go up this tree right here, I want to kind of have the container, the blue outline across the whole site, across the fixed width that I'm trying to do here, right? So this looks like it. I don't want to change the width of the ribbon because we're going to do something with the ribbon after as well. So I just want to make changes to this div right here, and we'll notice is a ID of S4-workspace. So let's make it. Let's take that over here.
I think it has inline width.
Sorry?
Does it have inline width?
It has an inline width. Yep. So it has an inline width, meaning that outside of the actual ID and the CSS related to it, it has an inline width, and that means that takes precedence over any CSS. If we go over here, here's some copied code to save time. So for our Metro theme, if we remember, the font that we're going to use is Segway UI or Segway WP. Those are the fonts that we're using. We also want the font size to be 100%. I prefer that usually over pixels or percentages. Sorry for line height, but font size I prefer percentages. If you want to read more about why I chose these values, feel free to go to that link as well. And that actually takes you to a website called A List Apart, very focused on design and why we don't use pixels as much as we use EM or percentage. All right. So in this case, what I've done is I've defined the color of the text, the style of the text, and the size of the text. I also want to define a particular color for all the links, whether they're hover, they're visited, or active. Here's our S4 pound, S4-workspace. What we define here is the width as 140 pixels. And I think in our case we might, because of our browser resolution, we'll put it down to 900 pixels, see how that works. And the margin, you'll see there's two properties, not a single property. And the reason for that is it's kind of to optimize the CSS. So if we copy this, this is how it would look. The top has 0 pixel margin, meaning no space at the top. And the right and the left have an auto. So based on the browser resizing, we're going to basically center this this div right here. So we'll save that. You notice for a quick flash of a second, it was a certain width. See if that happens again. You notice it was a certain width and then it expanded. And the reason for that, as Shai pointed out, was because of the inline width. And the inline width, how does it get implemented? If you tried to look at the master page does not have it. So if we go to, we can either look at it here, or we can also go to attributes. And attributes is the one that has it. We can't remove that, and the reason for that is the ribbon.js. That's correct, right? Ribbon.js is the JavaScript that's calculating the height and the width to apply on your master pages. Kind of annoying. But that's kind of what you are stuck with. Well, not really. There is a fix for that. And the way to JavaScript to say, hey, don't set the width. I got the controls here. So switch over. I didn't save it, right? And no key.
Is it no set width or not set width?
There you go. Thank you. No set width. There you go. All right. So your ribbon's at the top. Still, that's what I want. and here's a scroll bar. Some people prefer the scroll bar there, some people don't. But what I prefer to have is a scroll bar actually to the far right as part of the full document, or the full markup here. So switch over to custom.css. So the property that we're using here for the body here is to say the overflow, which is for the ribbon, or sorry, for the scroll bars, that it should be defined by the body. The body is the one that should implement that. And this is for to say that the scroll bars on the S4-workspace should still be visible. They shouldn't be removed. However, the body CSS is the one that's going to kind of take emphasis over everything else. So we don't want to hide the scroll bars for our content within that S4-workspace. We just want to move it to the full body of the page. And that's what it does. Okay. Any questions, guys, so far? Ladies?
Yeah. Is there a list of all these Microsoft classes that they provided?
Oh, they've documented it and blogged about it. No, not at all. Yeah, it was one of those things that when it first came out, that all us designers were looking at how to provide a fixed width, because on an intranet site, it doesn't make sense to have a fixed width design, because a lot of times your list libraries, when people access them, they have a lot of columns, they expand. On a public-facing site, it's a different audience, so you don't generally have them go to a list library to view the site. So yeah, a lot of us tried it. We didn't know, and I believe Randy Driscoll, one of the SharePoint MVPs, found the solution. And I think he probably talked to the product group managers to say, hey, what's the fix for us? So thankfully, Microsoft already had thought about that. It just wasn't documented, but now it is. If you go search out there and search for fixed width solutions, you'll find it.
But there's other classes for other controlling.
There's I think 40 or 50,000 lines of CSS. It's not all documented. That's why I'm kind of showing you this, because what I want to show everybody is that it's not a daunting task to brand a site. What's really daunting more is the information architecture, as well as how you brand your solution properly, right? It's not enough to just even go through this exercise.
What's the impact if you were to instead just change that ID instead of being S4 workspace to something else that the JavaScript didn't pick up on it?
Yeah, so previous solutions did say just change S4-workspace to anything else. Change the ID to my workspace or whatever, right? Kanwal's workspace. Yeah, the ribbon will not, change the width of that, but there's a lot of other little nuances that you run into. Some of the pages don't work exactly. Some of the actions don't work.
So the other things still expect to see it.
Yeah. So now that we've done that, one of the next things that I want to do is go through the logo. So switch back here. The logo is not what I'm not a fancy designer. I can't really mock up a logo for you guys, so I want to hide that. There's tons of ways to do it. One of the basic ways, F12, highlight the logo, understand what the class is, that's the class. And in your CSS, if you just did display none, that would hide the logo, right? You put that in your CSS class and you hit in the logo. So even if somebody went through site actions and went to change the site logo, it wouldn't show up on your site. Now your code is still being rendered. The tag is still being rendered. So the other approach, of course, is to go through here. Here's the actual code for it, that line right there. And since it's a server tag, we can just go visible equals false. I prefer that over CSS. So that's one example. But what we'll notice is, since this is not a content placeholder, it's actually placed inside of a column. We go back to our design. Since as designers we like to be pixel perfect, we want to